If you are a small business owner, an advertiser, or a marketer, you might have experienced a similar problem that a lot of people in your situation face, which is that your audience, your target audience, is not paying attention to what you're saying to them. Does that ring a bell? Well, today we are talking about the second element in the triangle of marketing trust that I referenced in the previous video where I talked about the right audience. Of course, if you don't have your target audience dialed in just yet, it makes sense to go ahead and look at that video first because that's the first in this series. But once you know exactly who you're targeting, then you gotta have the right message for them, the relevant message for them so that they can pay attention. And that is what we are talking about today. Okay, marketing. It's about three things. It's about your market, it's about your message, and it's about your media. We've already talked about market, and we're going to talk about media in the third video, the next upcoming video in this series. But today we are talking about your message, which is the second part of the psychological aspect of what's going on in your marketing. Your message needs to be relevant. That's the number one thing. It needs to be relevant to the audience you're targeting. Your message needs to be clear. It needs to be very clear. In this day and age, there is really no excuse to be presenting irrelevant offers or messages to the people that you're targeting because you know exactly who those people are and you have the ability to choose who those people are and what they're thinking about and what they like and what they dislike. You're targeting them on the basis of their likes and dislikes, and you already hopefully know everything there is to know about your own business, your own offers, your products, and your company. So there is no reason why you shouldn't be able to deliver a very precisely targeted message, a very relevant message to your audience. Now, the second most important thing about messaging is the clarity of your message. Your message needs to be short, it needs to be concise, it needs to be very, very clear. In fact, it needs to be so clear that you should be able to take it to a 12-year-old and the 12-year-old should be able to tell you exactly what this message is about. And then you should be able to take it to an 80-year-old and the 80-year-old must be able to decipher the message as well. You don't always want to go with 12 and 80, of course. Your message needs to be complex sometimes when you're targeting a different kind of audience, but then you need to make sure that at least your audience can understand what your message is all about. You shouldn't be using jargon as long as you can avoid it. As long as you can make your message simple and clear and straightforward, do it. And here's a rule. Don't use 12 sentences to express what can be expressed in 2. Don't use more words than you absolutely have to. I always say when information is cheap, attention is expensive, and that's always true. You're always fighting for attention. You're competing with the likes of Kim Kardashian and cute little fluffy puppies and cats and toys and little babies laughing on video for attention. You're competing with celebrities and big shots for attention. So your message needs to be clear. You need to know exactly what your message is based on where someone is in their marketing journey, their journey of getting to know you, which I'm going to talk about in a minute. For instance, you do not want to start by messaging or showing or advertising your feature list, the list of features contained in your product, to someone who doesn't really know who you are, what you do, what your product stands for, what your company is all about, and has no association with you, has never heard of you before. That would be bad marketing. A very smart man I know always says, start with where you're standing, start with what you have. And you have to assume that someone who has never been to your website, never been to one of your stores, never ever done any transaction with you, never called you, hasn't known you, has never bought anything from you, has no idea who you are. That's the assumption that you start with. And when you're talking to someone new, you don't want to start talking about your offers, your guarantees, your features, your benefits. That's not what they're looking for. The first stage of interaction is basically going up to someone and saying, hey, my name is Laksh and I'm a business systems architect, right? That's how I would introduce myself to someone. And of course, that would just be the first interaction. Hopefully, the next time they see me, they remember who I am and what I do, so I don't have to do that whole introduction again. But the first interaction is introduction. Now, naturally, they're thinking, hey, what's a business systems architect, right? Or what does a business systems architect do? Sounds interesting, I've never heard of it before. So I go on and explain to them what a business systems architect does, which in a nutshell is systemizing various aspects of business that have to do with marketing and operations so that you as the business owner, if you are a business owner, can focus on growing the business instead of having to run it and put out fires all the time. And that's the first step. Now they are aware of who I am and what I do. Once awareness has happened, we move on to the second stage, which is engagement. I start talking to them, about their problems, and if they are a business owner, the kind of situations that they're going to have to deal with all the time or that they're already dealing with right now. Right? So I'm engaging with them, I'm having a communication with them, a two-way communication with them. Maybe I ask them a series of questions, maybe I give them some tips, some pointers, some cheat sheets, stuff like that. So in marketing, this stage would be similar to you giving them a quiz, a questionnaire, a webinar, or a PDF download, giving them some sort of information that actually helps them know more about their problem and the available solutions, while at the same time being engaged with your content, your brand, your messaging. Now, once they've taken some steps, okay, let's go back to the meat world analogy. I've been talking to you about your problems and I've been giving you a couple of tools, maybe recommendations, right? And now you say to me, hey Laksh, I want to hire you in a professional capacity. How do I go ahead with that? And what do you do? And how much money do you charge? And how do you guarantee that whatever it is that you're doing for us will have some sort of a positive impact on our business, so on and so forth? So now you've moved on to the final stage of interaction, which is the conversion stage. And let me tell you something. Most people, most business owners think that once you get a client, once you acquire a client, this conversion stage is over. Wrong. That stage has just begun. Once you get somebody to give you some money and become a customer or client, that's where the conversion process has actually begun. The conversion process goes on for a lifetime. It's an educational and a transformative process. It doesn't happen overnight and it cannot be finished within 15 days of a marketing campaign. So that's one thing you want to keep in mind. But let's just focus on the first transaction, on getting someone to become a client or a customer for the first time. So now, going back to the meat world analogy, you are asking me questions that someone who is interested in having their business systemized in the real world might ask. They're asking me questions about price, about how the program works, how to apply for it, can I even work with them, so on and so forth. So this is a two-way evaluation stage. Now, only when someone has taken some sort of an action that indicates they're ready to move on to the next step, maybe they've downloaded a PDF from your website, maybe they've entered their email address on a form on your website, maybe they filled out a form and mailed it into you, if that still happens somewhere. Maybe they gave you a call, maybe they visited. They did something to indicate that they are actually interested in engaging with you, your business, your products, your service, your offers. Now they're ready to move on to the final stage, which is the conversion or the evaluation process. Now they're going to evaluate you while you also evaluate them to see if there is possibility of a transaction and maybe even a long-term transformational relationship. And this is where you start talking about features and the benefits of your offers. This is where you start differentiating yourself from your competitors. This is where you start talking about your USP. Most people start with the USP. That's actually a big mistake. I mean, of course, exceptions exist, but if you're starting with your USP, you're starting with the assumption that someone who's looking at your website or who's come to your website or to your store is already ready to make a buying decision. They're probably not. Most of them are not. If you're watching a video that I've put out for the first time, you're in the awareness stage. If this is the second, third, fourth, fifth, 10th video that I've put out that you're watching, you're already in the engagement or maybe even the evaluation stage, but you're no longer in the awareness stage. But still, I cannot pretend that you're already here when you might actually be right here. And one of the other things I want you to notice is that I'm not really talking a lot about myself. What I'm talking about is content that is relevant to you. No matter where you are in the evaluation stage, in the engagement stage, or in the awareness stage, no matter where you are, this content is valuable to you as a business owner, period. And the vast majority of people watching this content are right here. They don't know anything about me, my company, what I do. Let's face it, we're not Apple or Google or one of those giants. We're all small and medium businesses for the most part, right? And so we gotta assume that nobody knows anything about us and lead them down that stage. Now, in this day and age, you can track exactly or precisely where people are, at least for the most part. So you know when someone comes to your website for a couple of times, they know who you are, they're aware of you. And you know when someone asks you for information and fills out a form or makes a phone call, they're already a prospect. So they've moved down to the second stage. And finally, when they're checking out your pricing page, your guarantee, your USP, they're asking questions on your live chat widget on your website or placing phone calls, asking you how can I get started and how much investment do I need. They're in the third stage, and that's where you really sell to them. But you don't have to sell to them because you've led them down a stage. You've led them down a journey. You've been with them every stage of the way. So they have every reason to trust you. You started with their problems. You started with possible solutions. Now this content right here had nothing to do with you in particular. They could have just used that content, and many will, and they would have gained some value out of it. But then some of them went on to stage 2, and then of those people, some of them went on to stage 3, and finally you have clients, and the conversion process continues. Clearly, it is a waste of marketing dollars if I start advertising content from stage 3 or stage 2 to someone who's not even in stage 1, right? To someone who's not even aware of me, of the kind of problems I can solve, of the kind of problems that they might have related to systemizing their business or marketing processes. And the benefits, they don't know anything about that, right? The benefits of systemizing their business, so on and so forth. So it's a waste of money if I start marketing my USP to the entire world, assuming the entire world is comprised of business owners. We've talked about that, right? But even if I were just advertising to the kind of people who actually become my clients, I would still be wasting money if I started by advertising my USP instead of telling them more about business systemization and about how marketing works, the fundamentals of marketing, so on and so forth. So make sure your marketing is clear. You are clear about who it is that you're marketing to, what stage of awareness they are at, and how they're moving from or progressing from one stage to the next, and how your marketing and your messaging is corresponding to that. So that's it for this video. Thanks for watching. In the next video, I'm going to talk about media, and this is something that almost every single business owner gets wrong, even when they're working with a media buying agency, otherwise known as an advertising agency. All media is not created equal. You might actually profit a lot more from one sort of media compared to another, and I'm going to talk about how to find the right media for you, the right platform for you, for your audience, for your messages. So hit like if you like this video, hit dislike if you like this video, and leave a comment to tell us why. Leave a comment anyway. We welcome questions, comments, and blurbs, and have a great day.